Welcome back to Epic Exchanges. Another week and another amazing guest. Please welcome Julie Letizia here to share her story. Welcome, Julie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat today.
Great. Well, why don't you tell our audience something about you?
Sure, yeah. Well, as Kelly mentioned, my name's Julie. I am a recent graduate. I went to UVic a couple of years ago, and I got started working a couple of jobs that I just wasn't happy with, and it actually propelled me to start my own company. I'm now building a company called Benny, where we make actually good for you energy drinks. And yeah, oh, there goes my light.
Oh, it
That's
happens.
okay.
Again, it's the magic of unedited interviews on YouTube.
Yeah, no
Life
worries.
happens. Well, why don't you share the story about Benny and how you ended up starting the company and where you are now?
Yeah, for sure. It's actually a much longer story than I think some people guess when they just hear energy drink. But basically, while I was actually in university, around in my third year, I was both a student athlete throughout high school and university, and then trying to keep up with school and everything. I was just putting my body, my mind through so much, like drinking literally 5 coffees a day, which was insane, and Red Bulls or caffeine pills sometimes, like whatever I could, just to kind of keep up with that like hustle. And eventually in third year, my body and mind and everything just completely gave out. I hit a total wall of burnout, and I actually ended up in and out of the hospital with what I was told was an incurable disease. I would just like break out in hives, just like going for a walk or taking a shower and like go into anaphylactic shock. So it was really, really scary. And I went down the kind of path of Western medicine for a while, which obviously just did not serve me. I couldn't find any answers. So eventually I kind of took things into my own hands and started exploring the world of natural healing and holistic healing and kind of just fueling my body in a better way. And I guess that's what really led me to start Benny, because I found so much power and control in taking that into my own hands and learning what worked for my body, and figured that a lot of other people could relate to that too. And it turns out that they could. A lot of people were not happy with the way that they were fueling their bodies, and kind of, I used to think of coffee every day as something that you're drinking that every day as a ritual to go out and do the things that you love, like chase your dreams and your goals, and that should be something that you feel good about. So that's really what I wanted to create, and which is now what I'm doing with the company that I'm building. So yeah.
There's so much in there. So I
Yeah.
can dive into some conversation. So first you mentioned that they diagnosed you with an incurable disease. What did they say it was or what caused it?
Yeah, they told me that it was basically exercise induced anaphylaxis, but like for me, that would just show up even going on like a brisk walk when I would get too hot, or like my heart might beat too high or anything like that. So really, it was like quite erratic. And then I started seeing like a bunch of allergy specialists, and they're like, well, it could be triggered by this certain food and all that. So um, really, it just turned out from my own diving into it to be so fueled by stress and like nervous system overwhelm and like the chronic fatigue and stress that's putting my body through. And a lot of that was fueled so much by the things that I was choosing to consume, like Red Bull and like so many coffees and just like not eating properly. So yeah, once I started to really address that and even just get into like meditation and breath work and taking care of myself in a better way, that healed itself.
So what's your degree in from university?
It's in economics and business. So
Okay.
not
It
really
worked.
related to the health part, but
Well, where I was going with that is at least with the business part, because you're starting a business, you've started a business that helps,
yeah,
but it's not chemistry based. And creating
no,
a healthy energy drink is kind of chemistry based, right? You need to know the products, you
yeah.
need to know how they work together and how they affect the body and some
Mhm.
biology in there. So how did you start learning all of that?
To go back a bit, I guess as well. So while I was in university, I started a plant-based food blog because that's what I was really into. So I guess there's a similar like string going through there, as I just really wanted to help people like eat better and take care of themselves and all that. So that definitely gave me a bit of a background knowledge of just like creating recipes and like dosages of stuff and amounts to put in things. So I had like a little bit of a rough understanding. Like I've always just been passionate about like creating through food. So I started there and I literally started recipe testing in my kitchen, like throwing things at the wall. And this is when I was still living in my parents' house, so they were furious with me. Um, and then we actually brought on a naturopath as well to be part of like our board of advisors to help advise us on actual like medicinal dosages of like the adaptogens that we have in our drinks, like make sure that it was efficacious for people and obviously safe. And then towards the end, like we started working with some different manufacturers and like food scientists just help us fine tune it. But even now, anything flavor wise that I want to see, I'll just go in and change myself.
You've learned a huge skill set through this process.
Yeah, it was
You-
really cool. It was one of those things where like I feel like it shows you that you can do hard things and like just one foot in front of the other.
oh, exactly. We can do hard things.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
when you were sharing your story, you mentioned like the morning ritual of coffee and everything, and how
Hmm.
it's something I actually think about on a regular basis as I have my morning coffee, usually one,
Yeah,
sometimes two, sometimes only a half, depending on how
hopefully not five.
I know. Never more than
Yeah,
two, I don't think.
yeah.
But there is beyond the taste, because if I were to stop and
Hmm.
really think about it, I probably find it quite bitter and I don't love it. It's the ritual I
Hmm.
love. The,
Hmm.
certain time of day, sitting down with a book, having my coffee or checking my email or something like that,
Hmm.
that is more about a habit, but yeah, that ritual of, oh, this is how I start my day. So with Benny, it's not a hot
Hmm.
drink, it's a cold drink.
Hmm. Hmm.
And what kind of ritual do you envision that you'd like to see people using to incorporate Benny into their day?
Yeah, I think it's really actually kind of hit its intended purpose. So I'm definitely not like a hater against coffee at all. Like I get that some people love it and everything in moderation, I'm sure is okay. But I really wanted to create it to kind of replace that second cup of coffee in the day, the one that like keeps you up at night and it gives you jitters. And it usually is that one that pushes people over the edge. So that kind of comes in there and it's really been resonating with a lot of people as kind of like preventing that midday crash. So a lot of people, like 1, 2 p.m. when you're working, or like maybe you're going to an exercise class, like for a walk, something that's just like gentler and kinder on your body than kind of spiking yourself so aggressively with a ton of caffeine or sugar. So yeah, it's
Right.
been, yeah.
I went to a lecture from a sleep doctor several years ago.
Hmm.
He was talking about caffeine and the half-life of caffeine in the body, which is 9 hours. So if we have a cup of coffee, let's say
Hmm.
there's 100 units of caffeine. I have no idea how caffeine's measured, but let's just say 100 units of caffeine. In 9 hours, you still have 50 of those in your body. And another
Yeah.
9 hours, you'll have 25. And so
Hmm.
after I heard that, I was like, oh, I can't have any kind of caffeine after 1 o'clock in the afternoon because I'm not going to sleep well. And
Yeah.
it's even earlier. It's rare that I'll have a caffeinated beverage
Hmm.
um, after noon, let alone if at all after about 11.
Yeah. And that's great. I'm sure that probably helps your sleep so much. I found like I used to be up so much. And like a typical cup of coffee has almost 200 milligrams of caffeine. So we have like less than half of that. So it's just like a nice, gentle boost, buzz. And also something I guess related to sleep that I found interesting with the way that coffee is released versus like a green tea is that coffee actually blocks the sleep receptor in your brain. So it's just telling you you're not tired. It's not actually giving you energy, which
Right.
I thought was so interesting.
It's a ritual. It's what we tell ourselves.
Yeah,
Eat a coffee or a soda, a pop, a Coke, whatever, at three
yeah,
o'clock because I'm crashing. Well, no, actually, or something sugary, right? Cookie, a candy
yeah.
bar, whatever. Um,
Mm.
so why is it important for you to share your story about Benny or how you got to the process of even building Benny, telling your story about your struggles?
Hmm. I think for me, so much of it, which I might have touched on a little, but is just empowering people to take that control over their health and knowing that you can do that and that there is better options that might be more natural or more holistic or anything like that, that you don't have to put your body in that stressful state constantly, which was so damaging for me. So I just wanted to create something better that could be that for people, and also like sharing my story with other people and allowing people to connect with that and like open up about some health struggles that they've had, or even mental struggles. A lot of what we put in our drink is like about mental health as well. So that's also been so amazing to kind of be able to create that space for some people to like connect. And I personally love talking about it with people too. It's like energizing and it feels so nice to make that connection. So I think those are two reasons that have been important to me.
Right. You mentioned that in university you started a plant-based blog. Do you still have that
Hmm.
going?
I do. It's not the forefront. It's a bit on the back burner, but cooking for me has always been something like as a creative outlet that I just love. So if I can find the time or make the time, like I will engage with it a little bit. And it is something that like I hold so close to my heart because I think it was like a bit of that seed that led me down that path of like entrepreneurship and building up that courage to start and finish things as well.
What would you say the greatest thing that you've learned about yourself through all of this has been?
I think knowing that I can figure out anything has been amazing. I've run into so many people that feel so afraid to go after what they want or chase their dreams because they think you need to know everything in the beginning or like get to that end state right away. And I think like learning to enjoy the process and also just know that I will figure it out one way or another has been really cool and just like gives me a lot of faith that in 10 years, if I want to start something else, like I always know that I can.
What a great thing.
Yeah.
What would you like people to learn from your example or to take away from just even listening to this podcast episode?
Yeah. I think something I always share with my friends that rings true is to really follow what energizes you and excites you. And that might not even be like in the matter of a thing or an event, but also the people that you connect with. It should energize you and make your cup feel kind of full and add to your life. So I personally think that that's like your intuition's way of leading you in the direction that you're meant to be going, is when you get that like little bit of excitement and energy from something like that, that is a nod in the right direction.
So trust your gut a little bit and follow
Yeah.
this almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love
I
that.
think, yeah, I think for me, like I personally used to be someone so much that followed the path of should do, like, oh, I'm told I should be doing this, or like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I ignored that little nod. So that's always been something now that I've learned that I love to share.
Well, I love that you've learned that so young
Thank you. Thank you.
because there's a lot of us a generation above you who are still learning that. So,
Yeah, I think it's been amazing, like so many of the resources that have come available to kind of younger generations to explore that. Like even therapy has become so much more accessible and more talked about. So it's great
right.
to see. Yeah,
Yeah. Diving into what's important to us, what makes us who we are.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much. If people want to find Benny, try it out, follow you, how can they find you? How can they find your products? All of
Yeah.
those things.
Firstly, we have our website, which is always available and just has more information on Benny, but also across Canada and the US now too. We're available on well.ca, which you can just order single cans to try one and it'll ship anywhere, which is amazing. Vancouver locally, we're in Choices Market, Meridian Farm Markets, and Nature's Fair. So hopefully some more soon, but if you want to try it in person, they're available there too.
Great. I love that it's available online wherever people are, that they can just try it out.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
great.
I know. It's been so awesome with like such the age of social media where there's people all over the world that you can reach. So I think like accessibility has been a really important factor for me
Yeah.
and for our little team.
Well, and too, even for my podcast, I have listeners all over the
Yeah,
place. If they want to
yeah,
try
it's
it, and
amazing.
I recommend that they do, I have tried it. I
Thank you.
recommend that people try it, especially if you're looking for something that's more natural and a better way to boost your energy than a lot of things that our bodies are reacting pretty strongly to these days.
Yeah,
Um, we will have all the links available in our show notes and on our social media. So we'll be sure to tag you and everything so that if anybody wants to find your website, follow you on your social media channels, they'll be able to get those links.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being here and sharing your story. I'm excited to see where Benny goes in the next couple of years.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.